This FM24 tactic bagged 246 goals in the championship with Stoke City, and it scores over 5.3 goals per game, while conceding 0.4 goals per game. I thought it was crazy, so I had to give the tactic a try. So I played through an entire season with AC Milan just to get a feel about why the system is so good and what to do in difficult games, and I'm going to share those results with you really soon. But first, I have to give huge credit to the tactic creator, who is XI Magic. I stumbled on his tactic in one of the Discord chats. We'll look at the player roles and what each player is meant to do and the kind of player that, in my opinion, you will need to play in those roles. Then we'll look at the individual instructions for each of these players and also look at the team instructions that you need to actually build this tactic. So I'll show you some subtle tweaks I actually made to the system during matches that, in case your team is not playing so well and they're struggling to score a goal against a team that is sitting in a low block, or in case you get a red card, all this sort of stuff. I'm going to tell you how I actually went about fixing them during the match. We'll also review the team instructions for the tactic and possible tweaks that I made that helped me see out some games when I needed to. But first, we'll start off with AC Milan, and looking at where we're set up right now, we have a game against Atalanta coming up, the Coppa Italia final, and we're currently first in the league with 87 points, 85 goal difference, and we have like a game at hand. So it's still looking good, better than I actually expected the season to go. But if you look at the data hub, which is where it's more interesting for me, we have about 3.06 goals per game with AC Milan. Now, Milan are one of the top teams, and of course, our opponents are a lot more difficult than in the championship. But considering that he had 5 point something goals per game, 5.36, I think, with Stoke City is quite phenomenal, to be honest. But if you look at the amount of goals we've conceded, we actually conceded less goals, which is 0.63 goals per game. For me, this is quite good. In fact, it's exceptionally good because in Football Manager, it's really easy for the AI to actually get at you and score a lot of goals. So to find a tactic that actually defends quite well is really, really good. Looking at the squads and how our players perform, we have a player here in Lorenzo Colombo. He's our main striker, and for me, he's not the very best striker in the world. He doesn't have any standout attributes. He's probably just off the ball that is like 16, which is okay for me. But as an advanced forward, he's quite okay. But he has gone on to score 19 goals all season, 3 assists and 5 clear-cut chances created. Very, very good. And Rooney Badji, of course, we had him in there playing as an attacking midfielder. Sometimes when I made tweaks, I actually pushed him to the right a little bit. We're going to look at the tactic in detail, don't worry. Rafael Leao is also in that system as well. He did not like the role he was playing, but he went on to score 14 goals, went on to have 2 assists, and of course created 10 clear-cut chances. We see one of my defenders in here, Jared Braithwaite. Very good in the air, 6'5". He went on to score about 12 goals, which is most of them coming from corners. But the corner tactic is not really linked to this particular tactic I'm about to show you. That is a completely different video. Do let me know in the comment section if you want to see my corner routines. But those are the players that had really, really good results. This guy, Angel Abarasin, is a new player. He's actually quite good, one of my best players in the team, but he came newly and he's already been able to get like 10 goals. He came in January, I think, so we're in May now. He's able to get like 10 goals already, but I think next season is going to be better for us. So altogether, that is how the system has gone. And if you look at our league, we have 3 games more in order to secure the title. And against Spezia and Lazio, I do expect to win these games. And we have a game at hand and like 3 points. So hopefully we can go ahead and win the title. But that's enough about how we've done well with AC Milan. Let's look at how the tactic is actually built. So this is the system that XI Magic went on to create. It's a 4-2-2-2 asymmetrical tactic system. I do like the shape of this system and the player roles that are in here. The player roles that he has are a super keeper on defend, 2 ball playing defenders, and fullbacks on attack duty. I do have my best players inside. That's why you notice Davide Calabria is in here. He's currently suspended. There's going to be issues with red card, but we're going to talk about that much later when we get into the team instructions and player instructions. We have a Segundo Volante on attack and a defensive midfielder on support. Inside forward, inverted winger, playing on the left hand side. He's much closer to the Segundo Volante in the central midfield role. And then we have an inside forward on attack. Rooney Badji is usually in this role. We have our new striker in Abarashin. He's playing as a pressing forward on support. And Lorenzo Colombo is leading the line as an advanced forward on attack. Now, each of these players have unique roles and personalities that actually allow them to succeed in their role. Rafael Leao is the one that I think was most stubborn because he didn't really enjoy the role that he was given. He prefers to be a winger on attack or an inside forward on support, playing ahead of the position I gave to him. But due to the tactic from XI Magic, this is the role that he's going to play as an inverted winger on support. So looking at his player attributes, he has every attribute to actually excel as an inverted winger on support. The green attributes are what's most important, but the blue attributes are, well, a nice to have, and I think he has that in spades as well. The only problem I have with Rafael Leao for this role is the work rate, because his work rate is like 11, and having him play in a much deeper position like this might cost him when it comes to his work rate, but maybe that's where his problem was. Now, each of these players have their individual instructions. If you look at Magnan as my goalkeeper, he's only asked to tackle harder, and if you look at the back four, Theo Hernandez preferred to be a wing back on attack duty or a wing back on support, but we had him play as a full back on attack. He's going to take a lot more risk cross on the byline, cut inside with the ball, tackle harder and mark tighter. It's more like the standard meta back four, to be honest. And David Calabria, he's going to be the player that is playing as a fullback on attack on the right hand side. The instructions are very similar to the one on the left. In fact, they're exactly the same. But you notice that David Calabria doesn't like to cut inside. So this is something that during games I used to somehow take it off. But I think it didn't really matter. The fact that there's an exclamation mark here means that David Calabria could see this instruction and completely ignore it because of his player trait. So it didn't really matter whether you take it off or on. He's not going to do it if he doesn't feel like doing it. So that's what I noticed in the game. Looking at the ball playing defenders on defend DT, they're going to dribble more and tackle harder. And I think that is pretty standard if you want to have a overpowered back four. And it's quite good in this game. It has worked very well for us. Looking at the defensive midfielder and second volante pairing, DM is on support duty. I had a player here in Ismail Benacer. Benacer didn't really like to get further forward. I think an internal instruction here was to get further forward. No, that wasn't the problem. Benacer preferred to get further forward, but the instruction for the defensive midfielder on support says hold his position. So during the match or before the game, you would see that he was hurt, that we had a player instruction that said hold position, but his player traits are telling him to run towards the center, take possession, move around and go around doing things. So that hold position was a problem for him. But like I said, according to player traits, it's not really going to matter the instruction. So if you have a different player there that prefers to hold his position, he's going to stay in that position and you won't really have a problem. But a player that doesn't prefer to hold his position might venture far forward. But considering that Benacer is good enough at what he's doing, he knows when to get back when it's time. Beside him is Fabian. Fabian plays as a second volante on attack DT. He has all the attributes to actually do that. Good passing, good vision, good finishing. I noticed that second volante actually needs this particular role. If you go over to the defensive midfielder here and then go ahead and select the second volante on attack DT, you notice that an important role for the second volante is the finishing role or the finishing attribute, sorry. Looking at the anticipation is quite good as well. His pace is not really there. He's 33, so he's probably somebody I'm going to want to buy, or it's probably somebody I'm going to want to replace. Buy someone and bring him in to actually replace him. But that's until then. He has been doing well so far, considering that he has pace of 9. So second volante on attack DT, only instruction is to take more risk, move into channels, and then tackle harder. Leao on the left, we've spoken briefly about him, but if you look at his player instructions, he is going to take more risks, cross less often, get further forward, run from position, sit narrower, close down more, tackle harder, and mark specific position. The position here is likely the fullback on the other side, which is the right back for the opposition. For a back three system, this is going to be the wing back on the right hand side. So remember to always tweak that when you come up against the back three system. Baji on the right has a similar instruction. He's also going to mark the fullback that is playing on the left hand side, but he's going to hold up the ball, run from position, sit narrower, close down more, and then mark tighter. Just to confirm that, left back. So in case he's playing against the back three, you're going to mark the wing back on the left that is playing on that side. Now the pressing forward here is on support DT. He's only going to move into channels, and I think a player that just has all-round attributes is quite good for this role. And you notice that my center forward here doesn't have the aggression, but I think for me, a pressing forward needs to have the aggression. You notice that the attribute here is yellow. I didn't really think of it too much before. I always just like to look for players that had aggression whenever I wanted the pressing forward, but it's important. As you can see, blue is the finishing and first touch role, especially on support DT. I think some roles are less important now. Finishing is less important. So pressing forward on support DT, an all-round striker is going to be quite good, just moving into channels. And then you have an advanced forward on attack, Lorenzo Colombo, only tackling harder. The attributes for the advanced forward are quite unique. He's going to have finishing, work rate, but I think we've looked at Lorenzo Colombo a little bit, so you can see his pace is not so great. The only thing he has is off the ball, to be honest, and then finishing. Maybe finishing is quite good, but concentration and all those kind of stuff, they're quite good as well. So that helps the advanced forward. Like I said, an all-round striker. You could probably find a better striker on Football Manager than Lorenzo Colombo. So that's up to you. Looking at the team instructions then and how well we set up, we're going to start with the mentality. And that to me is because it's the most important. Attacking was what I used for most of the games. But towards the latter stages of the season, I noticed it was getting harder to attack teams. So I tend to switch this from attacking to balance, especially in away games. Sometimes I even ended up using defensive and it worked out for us. There's a particular game in my schedule that I know I used defensive to actually win that game. I think it was the second leg against Fiorentina. We had won the first leg 1-0, and the second leg I just anticipated that we weren't doing so well, especially after losing to Chelsea, and we lost the game against Chelsea in the Champions League. So I was really nervous, so I had to just start with a defensive mentality against Fiorentina, and that worked out for us 2-0. So in case you're stranded or you're not sure how your team is going to play, you're coming up against a tougher opponent, especially away from home, it's okay to go defensive or balanced, but attacking mentality is the core mentality. The way the team is set up in possession, they're going to play with an attacking narrow width. The approach play, the team is going to pass into space and exploit both flanks, left and right. The passing directness here is shorter. That's because you want to retain possession, but you don't want to do it too slow, so you're going to have the higher tempo all set up. Low crosses wasn't really a big deal for me. I could actually leave this on mixed crosses, to be honest, but run out defense is quite important because you don't want your team to just be too passive and pass the ball around without having much penetration. So that is just cut out after penetration. Transition wise, counter press and counter instructions are selected. The goalkeeper is also going to distribute it quickly and roll it out to any of the players that are in the back four, usually the center backs or the full backs. I've seen my goalkeeper throw it to the full back a few times. Looking at the out of possession instruction, then it's a much higher defensive line, much higher than I'm used to, and of course high press, but a much more often trigger press. But don't worry, I don't think you're going to concede that many goals from through balls. I noticed that in this game, where we were conceding goals from was likely from corners and stuff like that. But I think I tried to set up my set piece well. Sometimes it could just be the opposition taking a long range shot from somewhere, so you never really know. But much higher defensive line and high press, it wasn't really an offside situation where we had to lose the ball to a long ball that a striker was one-on-one with the keeper. So get stuck in is also important. You can notice that most of the players have tackle harder instructions selected on them. Get stuck in is just to ramp it up a little bit. They're also going to step up more and compress the pitch in this area, have a lot of bodies in here and try to win possession there. The team is also going to invite their crosses. Now, I did talk about my set pieces briefly, and just so I don't forget, there's a slight tweak that I went on to make to the attacking set pieces. If you look at the way we attack in set pieces, normally I prefer a near post corner, so we're going to have it on near post, but this time I tweaked the near post. Instead of one attack near post and one attack far post, I switched this guy to lurk around the near post. So the second best header is lurking around the near post, and the third best header is lurking around the far post. I have somebody marking the keeper and then a player lurking around the center of the area, that's C2, and one player that's the better crosser coming short, the better creator. So he's going to come short and try to receive the ball. He can choose to play across, and then of course two players staying back, always two players staying back. So that's the only tweak that I went on to do to the set pieces, and I think I've discussed all the other tweaks that I've gone on to make to the tactic. If you do have any other questions, do let me know in the comment section. Huge credit goes to XI Magic for making this amazing tactic. We do hope to see more from him in the future. And that's it for this particular video tactic setup. For more tactic videos like this, do well to hit the subscribe button and go ahead and like this video as well. It does help the algorithm, I guess. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.